The views and opinions expressed in The Fact Is with Hollis Grant are those of Hollis Grant and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Droids Canada Network. Droids Canada Network does not take responsibility for any content or position produced by Hollis Grant and his show. Listener discretion is advised.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Fact Is. I'm your host, Hollis Grant. Today, we are going to be talking about everyone's favorite socialist, everyone's favorite communist from the communist country of Canada, Jagmeet Singh. We've done past episodes on Jagmeet Singh and his wonderful ideas on the Khalistani nation in India, the leader of the NDP party, or the new Communist Party. We've talked about his ties to terrorism. We've talked about his banning from India. We've talked about how much he wants to tax you and take your money and spend it on more government programs. We've talked about his belief that all drugs be decriminalized because drug addiction is not anything but a health problem, a mental health problem. And drugs should be accessible to anyone and everyone because they need help to get off of drugs. You can take a look at droidscanada.com, go back to our past episodes where we've talked about Jagmeet Singh. We've talked about Jagmeet Singh, and if you do read the name, it does appear to read as Jagmeet, but he did say that his name is pronounced Jagmeet Singh. The same Jagmeet Singh that pronounces the city of Ottawa as Ottawa. However, in Ojibwe, it would be Ottawa. So if we're talking about a party that really wants to represent Indian rights and give back to Indians and give fresh water to Indians and pay all the respect to Indians, but I'm not going to use and speak properly the language and the words that the Indians gave. The language is so bastardized. Words like Toronto, Mississauga, things that are mispronounced. Canada. But paying respect to those Indians, Jagmeet does not want to pronounce the city in its proper name. But today we're going to focus in on how Jagmeet runs his family. Like some mob boss, some Don from southern Italy. Because Jagmeet will tell you what you can and cannot do. What's good for the family. What's good for the family. You have to listen to the dear leader. An article from True North News, TNC News. Jagmeet Singh's wife wears $1,124 dress for maternity shoot as the NDP plans to tax luxury goods. As Jagmeet Singh's NDP unveiled their tax plan to tax luxury goods last night, Singh's wife, fashion designer Gurkrian Kaur Sindhu, was wearing a $1,124 dress in the couple's baby announcement photos released on social media. The dress, made by designer luxury brand Zimmermann, is available online at Nordstrom Canada and retails for $995, so $1,124 including taxes. Zimmermann is a luxury Australian fashion brand founded in 1991 by sisters Nikki and Simone Zimmermann. It is popular among wealthy American celebrities and billionaires, including Kendall Jenner, Beyonce, Chrissy Teigen, Jessica Alba, Paris Jackson, who have all been spotted wearing Zimmermann dresses. Zimmermann typically sells for anywhere between $500 to $2,650. The photo was shared on social media just hours before the NDP released its election platform, which included several references to raising taxes on the rich and imposing new taxes on luxury items. The platform, which is uncosted proposes sweeping new changes to the tax system and focus primarily on hiking taxes for, quote, super rich, unquote, Canadians. Notably, the NDP wants to impose a new tax on luxury items. A new Democrat government will also boost the top marginal tax rate 2 points, put in place luxury goods on things like yachts and private jets, and ask the very richest multimillionaires to pay a bit more, the platform states. In February 2018, Toronto Life wrote a profile on Singh celebrating his expensive shopping habits and collection of luxury items. The article talks about his lavish lifestyle and his own treasure trove of luxury items, including a BMW, multiple Rolex watches, expensive designer suits, and a, quote, absurd collection of bikes. He wears bespoke suits in the slim British style. His favorite is brown tweed with cobalt blue stripes, designed by a tailor in New Delhi, which he often pairs with a millennial pink turban. He owns 2 Rolex watches, an Oyster Datejust, and a Submariner. Both were gifts, a crimson BMW coupe, and 6 designer bicycles. True North reached out to the NDP to see if Zimmerman's dress or the Singh's Rolex watches would be taxed under a proposed NDP luxury tax regime, but did not receive a response in time for publication. Now, fast forward a year, and here we are sitting in the trucker convoy. Now, the trucker convoy, in case you haven't been following up on the news, is a group of individuals that decided to get together, drive their trucks, park downtown Ottawa, right in front of the Parliament buildings, and they're not going to leave until they want the mandates all restricted, mainly the vaccination mandates for international truckers arriving in and out of the country to be vaccinated. They've had enough. Now, again, 90% of truckers, 90% of these people that are protesting are fully vaccinated. They're just saying, no more. It's time that we stop this. No more mandates. We're not leaving until you listen to us. It's been long enough. The trucker convoy raised $9 million on the platform of GoFundMe and was denied their chance to have that sent back. Now, here's something that is interesting. Taken from Global News, and this was from January 27th, Singh's brother-in-law has asked for his 13,000 trucker convoy donation back, sources say. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, brother-in-law, asked for his 13,000 GoFundMe donation to the trucker convoy to be returned, according to an NDP source. The development comes as the convoy rolls towards Ottawa, hoping to convince the government to quash all vaccine mandates upon their arrival. As first reported by CBC News, the source said there is a, quote, misunderstanding in what the donation would be for, and once Singh's brother-in-law, Javdir Singh Dhaliwal, understood the true nature of this organization, he requested his funds to be returned. Singh, meanwhile, has spoken against the convoy and his brother-in-law's donation. I unequivocally disagree with him about his donation and told him so. I am against this convoy and against the dangerous and divisive rhetoric we're seeing coming from it, he said. I understand people are frustrated. We're still in this pandemic 2 years later, but the best way to get out of this pandemic and to keep ourselves, our families, and community safe is to get vaccinated, listen to people, listen to the public health experts, is what Singh said. The convoy initially kicked off with a focus on opposing vaccine mandates, especially the one aimed at truckers. The government announced in November 2021 that all Canadian truckers looking to cross the border from the United States would need to be vaccinated in order to avoid a 14-day quarantine. The United States also instituted its own ban on unvaccinated truckers on Saturday, a week after Canada implemented its policy. This was a request by the Canadian government. This was something that Joe Biden and his administration had no plans on doing. This was a request by the Trudeau government. When the Canadian vaccine policy came into effect on January 15th, many truckers and politicians came out against the mandate, and just over a week later, on January 23rd, truckers hit the road in protest. Now, the article goes on about, it's anti-government mandates, right? It explains the Facebook page, but it goes no further to talk about Jagmeet Singh's brother-in-law. Now, here's the problem. Jagmeet doesn't agree with it, doesn't like it, and go back to this. He disagrees with him about his donation. And I told him so. In his own words, he disagrees with the donation and told him so. And then all of a sudden, I got to ask my money back. And this is the true definition of a Indian giver. You give the money, you give it to charity, and now you want to take it back. It's not how things should work. He made the donation, let the family, let people have their own choices. In fact, Doug Ford's own daughter is vehemently against Doug Ford's own policies, his own governments, and his own mandates, but yet lets her have her opinion, lets her do the things that she does because she is her own person and she is responsible for her own actions. As Jagmeet Singh should have done. Hey, my brother did give $13,000 to that. I don't agree with him, but he seems to support the cause, so I don't agree with it. He did it. I didn't do it. That should have been his position. But no, he wants to tell you how to spend your money. He wants to run the family. And all the while he's doing this, he's buying all the designer clothes. He's buying all the nice things that you can't have. And he's not supporting the regular blue-collar workers that are frustrated and had enough. He should have been the first one in line to say, I'm coming down and I want to listen to what you have to say. You're here to say something, and I'm a politician, and I represent you, and I want to know what your opinion is. Let's have a dialogue. Let's discuss. And let's talk about things and what we can and cannot do. And if you support the government mandates, then you should be able to say, these are why we've put these systems into place, and these are why we feel it needs to be in place because it makes people safe, whatever your position is with the information. Start to have the dialogue. It has been 2 years. 2 years to crush the curve. 2 years, and there's no difference in the quality of life since the beginning of this nonsense. Since the beginning that public health officials have been sitting in their ivory towers dictating the rules, because these are not laws and they are merely mandates. To whip people into a frenzy, to have a media that is whipping everyone up into a craze. Now, since the trucker protest has happened in Canada, national news coverage has shifted away from all sorts of COVID-related topics. There's no more information on COVID. COVID has ended, and politicians are no longer talking about COVID because the real problem in Canada today is the truckers. These darn truckers are sitting in their trucks, not moving. These people have a voice. They have the right to protest, and they're bad people. They're very, very bad people, and they need to be kicked out of Ottawa and sent home. This is the real problem in Canada. COVID is dead. COVID is gone and no one is talking about it, and now it's shifted on to these truckers having street hockey matches, to these truckers having bouncy castles, to these truckers having barbecues and inviting people to eat on the street nice barbecued meals. These truckers that are passionate about a cause, these people that are passionate about their country and passionate about voicing their concerns, are the threat to Canada. Shows you that how out of touch that the NDP has become. The New Democratic Party, the party that focused on the working man, the downtrodden, the people that just don't have enough, hates those people, hates them so passionately, and a leader that can really understand what it's like to work your fingers to the bone, to work for 10 hours, standing up straight, unpacking boxes in a factory, or pulling a pump truck around and unloading and loading a trailer. He understands what it's like for the average Canadian. He wears Rolexes, designer bikes, and designer suits, and tells his family what they can and can't do with their money, and he buys $1,000 maternity dresses for photo shoots. He cooks with copper pots and pans on TikTok so he can make hip, fashionable videos in his upscale condo. He's so relatable to the youth of today in his overpriced condominium, his flashy clothes, because he cares about himself and he cares about material possessions that make him feel good and feel like a big man. But when it comes down to actually getting his hands dirty and helping those communities he says that he cares about, he couldn't be damned to pick up a shovel and dig a hole or dig a well for an Indian, because he doesn't care about them. He uses Indians like they're nothing for cheap votes. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Fact Is. I'm your host, Hollis Grant. I hope you have yourself a great week, and we'll see you again next week.
Dan, what happens every Thursday?
That would be DCR Droids Canada Radio.
And what time is it out on Thursday?
That's from 9 till 11 p.m.
Dumb question, where do you find it?
You find that at accessradio.ca.
And what's the best part?
It's free.